Hi everyone, I'm Mark Stutman from Folkway Music. I hope you're all doing really well. Today I have a very rare treat for me, maybe for you. It's a 1940 Gibson J-200. There it is, J-200, Roy King on the fingerboard. This was Gibson's highest-end guitar in the late 30s, in the very early 40s. And shipping records only show 96 of them ever got built before the model was temporarily discontinued for World War II, and what basically makes them as rare as a Martin D45. No telling how many of these are actually still in the world. Some are in museums, some are in, personal collections hidden away in closets and things. But it's not something that one sees very often, certainly here in Canada. Anyways, I'm excited to have it, and I figured I'd show you a few things about it. I have seen 3 J-200s in my life. There are 96 of them. I've seen 3 of them. I feel pretty lucky about the fact that I've had my hands and my measurement tools on 3 of these guitars. That doesn't necessarily mean that my first-hand observations represent J-200s from before the war as a whole, but they represent the 3 that I've seen. My whole philosophy in studying guitars is first-hand information. So with LOOs, I've seen hundreds or thousands of those. I've measured them all. I have a pretty good working understanding of what makes them tick. Same thing with J45s, J35s, even Gibson Jumbos. I've seen a lot of them, relatively speaking. But J200s, 3. Not a lot. That's a very small sample, and probably not statistically significant, academically speaking. But I'll present to you what I've found on those 3 J200s, because they are all very, very similar instruments with a couple of very minor differences. First off, just cosmetics of the thing. Excuse this tape right here, but it's holding these bits of the bridge in place so they don't fall off when I turn the guitar around. I'll show you those next. So the guitar is just about 17 inches wide, just shy of 17 inches wide. And it has a 26-inch scale, which is super long, and regular body depth. Red spruce and Indian rosewood back and sides. The neck is maple, figured maple, with a center strip of probably rosewood. Kluson steel fast tuners, which are gorgeous. You can see how beautiful those buttons are. Pearl inlays in the headstock. It has 9 layers of binding, matching sound hole, the fancy pickguard, mustache bridge. Has the strap holders both at the end pin and on the back of the headstock. Those are for attaching your strap to. And obviously the sunburst finish. The neck has 1 3/4 inch. It's nice and rounded. It's a very comfortable neck. It's not massive like a banner neck. It's pretty much the norm for a neck from the late 30s. Again, but without a V. It's a nicely rounded neck, which is something that Gibson started doing in around 1940. Under the hood, the guitar is built very much like most other Gibson models of the time. In the literature, and there's some really great literature out there that I encourage everyone to read about vintage instruments. The literature suggests that these guitars were built with a double X brace, a really wide X brace angle, and I'm sure those are out there. Those are not the 3 that I've seen, though. The 3 that I've seen have single X bracing, very standard Gibson fare, with a 104-degree X angle, and the X is located 7/8 of an inch from the fingerboard, or from the sound hole, just like most guitars. The bridge plate, of course, is bigger because it supports this large bridge that's here. But the bracing inside is very much a standard thing. These guitars, everyone I've seen as well, are built pretty robustly. The tops are generally a fair amount thicker than other models of guitars like J35s and obviously the smaller guitars. And I suspect they did that because these guitars were Gibson's fanciest guitars, and they didn't want them to fall apart or develop top issues that they've seen on lighter built guitars. These were also played by touring musicians who needed a guitar that was going to stand up to the rigors of travel and survive. And so I suspect intentionally that Gibson made these tops thicker, just again for longevity issues. Anyways, the Roy King and the fingerboard, you can see that. Roy King was a sort of largely unknown country singer, as far as I can gather. He had one record, as far as I've read on the internet, and but you could pay Gibson to put your name in the fingerboard, and it looks like that's what Roy did, because the frets on this guitar are factory original. So that's pretty neat too. And then the bridge. Let's look at the bridge. I'm going to pull off these little pieces of tape I have. I don't want to lose the original bits of Gibson bridges on my shop floor. So here's the mustache bridge. I'll walk a little closer to the thing. Alrighty. So what Gibson did on these J200s, you'll see this also on J100s and on J55s, is they had these saddle inserts. Now, let me pull one out here. So here's a guitar. Here it is without the insert in it. You can see the little hole. It's like it's missing tooth. So this insert, here it is. Okay, so this insert has a threaded bone piece. 1032 threading on there. And this little threaded piece goes into this ferrule. And this whole thing goes into the bridge. And the idea here was that you could just adjust your string action individually very easily by raising or lowering these threaded pieces. And the 1938 versions that I've seen, they have these same threaded pieces, but they're threaded directly into the ebony of the bridge. And I guess those had problems of their own, and so later versions, 39 on, have these ferrules, these brass ferrules that are installed in the bridge as well. Gibson thankfully abandoned this system, you know, and went to just putting a normal saddle in there. Makes a lot more sense and a lot less expensive to create. It's much more user-friendly, and it sounds a lot better. These threaded inserts generally don't do good things for tone, and you can't micro adjust your string height either, because obviously there's a notch in the top of the bone piece, so you can basically adjust your string action a half a turn at a time, and maybe that was too little or too much. The other thing you couldn't do is mess with the intonation of your guitar very well, and so with a drop-in saddle, at least you can compensate your saddle if you need to. Anyways, these are a bit problematic in terms of serviceability, and in my opinion, they're problematic in terms of tone. That all said, they're ultimately cool, and as a vestige of vintage Gibson-ness, I think they are a really neat thing to see on a J200. I don't know the story of why they came up with this mustache bridge and the reason for the cutouts and everything. I do know that when Gibson switched in the 60s to the not cutout J200 bridges, those bridges weigh a lot more, and so it's possible that they did this for weight savings in terms of making the guitar sound better. It's also possible they just did it because that was the design of the time. The Larson, you see some higher end Larson builds with bridges like that that have cutouts in them, and it looks really good. You got to admit, it's very laborious again to install this, to make this, and to install these, and so that was part of why these guitars were so expensive. What else can I tell you about the J200? Indian rosewood and ebony, which is really nice for a repair person here in Canada, because this can get shipped across the border with no CITES documentation. Score. Later, post-war, of course, they weren't ebony anymore. They switched to rosewood, different story. And double X actually happened after the war in large enough numbers that I've seen a number of them. And again, the build changed a lot after the war. The scale length became normal, not this 26-inch long thing. And top thicknesses changed, bridge plate thicknesses changed. They were not built as heavy post-war as these pre-war models. Also post-war, of course, they were maple instead of rosewood, which changes a lot about the sound of a guitar. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got to show you about this J200, and I'm gonna now wrap my head around the process of taking the neck off of this guitar in a way that leaves no trace. So that's definitely something to give some extra thought to before you get going. Anyways, off to the races. Nice to see you all. Hope you all have a great day, And we'll catch you on the next time. Take care.